What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Inflow Experience, a strategic podcast for unified communications and contact center success, and also some other fun stuff. I'm Tarek Spasic, your Inflow CSM. As always, shout out to all my customers and clients watching and listening, and also host of this podcast. Today's special guest for us here today is Brandon Knight, who is VP of Advanced Solutions and Contact Center at Telarus. Brandon, how you doing?
How you doing, Rick? Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. I want to sort of preference for our viewers and listeners. I met you once in Portland when we had our company kickoff, and I'll tell you this: your charisma and your sort of persona is one that I haven't come across very often.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I remember that trip too. That was fun.
Absolutely. Did you enjoy it? I remember you've ever been to Portland before? Was that sort of first time?
Yeah, no, that was my first time. I had been to Seattle a couple of times, but that was my first time getting into Portland. The only thing I did wrong was I didn't plan enough time outside of working. I didn't realize it was so beautiful, man, and I wanna get back up there, and I'm sure I'll be traveling for work, but I want to get back up there when I have some time to check out the area as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You should. And I know that, we'll probably be having much more events in the Northwest, so you're always welcome to attend. As far as sort of where you're at today, where you reside, where do you live? Where are you at the home office today? What does that look like?
Yes, actually, I am home today. I just got in late last night, and home for me in the last 2 months has changed. I spent the last 2 years in Austin, Texas. I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. But I now live in Las Vegas. I'm actually in Las Vegas, Nevada, or as they say around here, Lost Wages, Nevada. And it's a very different experience living here versus, everyone travels in either for entertainment or conference or conventions. It's a very different experience living here, and I'm loving it. The family's loving it.
Yeah, I bet. What prompted the move to Vegas?
Actually, it was a compromise. I don't want to upset any listeners, but we were in Austin, and my wife wanted out. She actually wanted to go to California, and so this is our compromise was Las Vegas, so she can get down to LA in a few hours and do what she wants to do. But I don't quite live in SoCal, so I get the experience, but not without having to be there. That's my thing. That was my point, my goal.
No, I got you. Happy wife, happy life, right? I've heard that a few times.
Exactly right. That is the way it goes. If I could just get my kids to understand that, everything would be great.
Yep, that's a little bit of a harder course. But I'm sure they'll get there.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about you mentioned they're traveling, and we'll touch on some of the other topics, but I wanted to cover that real quick. Someone in your position, and I'm sure you do a lot of traveling. What's that been like for you these last, maybe a year to year and a half? Any obstacles, obviously, with COVID, but has it been more difficult to connect with customers, clients, partners, etc., or kind of give me your experience last year and a half or so?
Yeah, it's been. I will tell you, last year especially, we kind of, I don't want to say shut down because we didn't shut down as a company, but customers shut down from March, April, May, a good part of June. So I didn't do a lot of in-person customer visits. Really didn't even do that much helping of customers really because they were all focused on just getting their agents home, getting them out of the way. And many people thought COVID was going to be over in the summer. And once we realized that didn't happen, then customers picked back up, travel picked back up again. I got out and helped a lot of customers in the fall of last year. Had one of the busiest years, ironically, that we've ever had was 2020. 2021 is now making that look like a slow year. So now there's a lot of customers that they figured out now this work at home thing is going to be a little bit more permanent. And so now they want to figure out how do we do it right. So I've been visiting a lot of customers, trying to help them set up world-class environments for their agents who are at home now. Been very busy doing that.
Yeah, I bet we've definitely seen that uptick and sort of seen the same sort of rush to sort of maybe plan or rush to execute as far as the customers are concerned. Anyone's business these days. Some people think that you got a bunch of time to make decisions and the customers will wait. And I'm talking about our customers, right? Exactly. But that's just not the case, right? They need that like yesterday. And when you're up against something like COVID, along with the lines of technology as well, those spots can get pretty difficult. So tell me a little bit sort of about some of the difficulties that you've been seeing, recently, as far as maybe not just the technology side, but maybe unique situations where customers had a harder time maybe going down and actually being able to implement these solutions and actually bringing their plans to fruition.
Yeah. What's been difficult for some customers has been, ironically, not necessarily the implementation part. What's been difficult for some customers is the decision part, because a lot of premises-based customers made temporary decisions last year. They said, we'll have people VPN, or we'll send people home with some units, or we'll leave some, essential workers in the office. And a lot of companies that have these premises-based systems are now figuring out, okay, we have the system. Now our agents are really, a good portion of our agents are going to stay home. Do we go ahead and get a cloud system now? Do we try to go VPN? Do we try to get them to dial in? What are the security implications of that? So now it's almost like there was a rush decision made sometime last year, and now there's a conscious decision being made this year, and there's a lot of steps to it that the customers are having to make. And some of it has to do with the executive leadership just deciding what to do. Do we go all in with cloud? Do we try to do a hybrid thing? Do we wait it out some more? I'm having more conversations just around the thought process, really, than the actual transformation itself.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I kind of relate this to, a little bit of almost PTSD, right? You have an instance where it's a shock to, your culture, a shock to your environment, and shock to your business as a whole. So the organizations, kind of have had this, sort of year, like you said, to make these not necessarily knee-jerk, reactions, but more of, decisions where, how do we stay afloat, and how do we keep our business continuity going? And now, as we sort of see this sort of scale back a little bit, they're having time to think and really sort of understand sort of what it is that they just went through. And now they're sort of in that same spot that they were maybe a year and a half ago to 2 years ago, where, like you just said, do we use this opportunity to fully move to the cloud, right? And sort of have a better understanding of where we sit today as an org, or do we kind of relax and hang on to what we have and hope that it gets on the last legs? And we've had these conversations with on-prem customers very, very frequently these last I would say 2 years, and a lot of that conversation surprisingly is sort of almost coming back to that, right? As they're a little hesitant once again, just because they're in the clearing, right? It's not necessarily as hot as it was. So right. What would you say to those customers? I mean, I know I ask the guests that come on here, what would you say to those customers that are still in that spot of, well, should we transition to the cloud? Is that a smart move? What would be your advice to them? Maybe the leadership team. What would you give as sort of a leaf over to them?
Timing is everything, and it's funny because you asked me this question. I just did this earlier with a customer earlier today. And the thing I recommended for them was a feasibility study. Many people might not realize that there's probably 15, 16 steps in a full digital transformation process that we use that goes from first discovery all the way through post-implementation. But the first 6 or 7 steps of that are called a feasibility study. And that means, let's find out if this even makes sense for you. Instead of going into it saying, hey, we're definitely going to go to the cloud and we're trying to pick which one, the feasibility study says, what am I doing right now? What are all the components? What are all the integrations? What are all the factors that contribute to my customer experience, making my customers happy and retaining my customers from a technology and operations perspective? What would that look like if I did transfer to the cloud or anywhere in between? Because we look at hybrid situations as well. And then if I do go to the cloud, who are the 3 to 5 players that I should entertain? And what does their answer to my what does their solution to my question look like? And what would ballpark pricing be? That feasibility study can be done, and I encourage people to do it. There's not a fee for it in most cases, so it's just someone like Inflow helping them figure out not necessarily who the vendor should be, but if there should even be a vendor, if there should be a change. Or maybe we don't go full blown cloud contact center. Maybe there's a couple ancillary companies out there that can add to the premises-based remote experience to make it mimic, whatever it is. I encourage people to do a feasibility study with Inflow and figure out if it's even the right time and thing for them to do.
Yeah, no, and I think that that's a great way to sort of lay that out there, and those steps that you mentioned, and I think every one is more important than the next. It really comes down to, you don't know what you don't know, and
Exactly.
a lot of times, just understanding that part from the very beginning, you're already leaps and bounds ahead of most, right? Because most people out there today,
Mhm.
they're either stuck in that same phrase of, hey, we've always done it this way, so we know
Oh
what we're
wow.
doing.
Yeah.
Right? They say that's like the what, 5 or 6 most expensive word in business is we've always done it that way.
Exactly.
So no, I definitely understand where you're coming from there. I kind of want to scale back the conversation a little bit, and kind of go over Telarus
Mhm.
as a whole. So today you're VP Advanced Solutions Contact Center there. Tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about what your position means at Telarus, and then kind of lead us into what does for those folks out there that may not know, and kind of give us sort of the maybe a high level elevator pitch on sort of what it is that you guys affect in the industry today.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you from a Telarus perspective, we are only as good as you are, quite frankly, because we're just an organization of intelligent partners like yourself. Partners who are out there trying to advise their customers on the best technology for them to use to get better. My role, I'm one of four people that have a division or a specialty that we call advanced solutions, and that's because some technology is a little bit more complex than others. It's not as easy as saying, "Hey, I want connectivity over here. How much is it going to be?" kind of thing. Anything that involves really where you have to consult the customer, you have to understand the industry. Anything where there's complex vendors and stuff, we parse that out and we do it separately. So I handle contact center. I have a peer that does UC. I have a peer that does cloud, and a peer that does like security and IoT and stuff like that. And my role is really simple. My role is to help customers with the one of the things you said was some customers don't know what they don't know. That's my job. My job is to help them with the part that they don't know, not the part that they can go look up. And the way we do that is, ironically, people think, well, we're a technology distributor, so you help them buy technology. I will tell you that my expertise comes from running contact centers. I've set up contact centers literally all over the world for major companies. For travelers, and I mean, Humana, Sprint, Merck, Campbell's, you name it. I've been in this industry almost 30 years. And that's, I think, what we bring. That's what Inflow can bring to its customers is someone who has run global operations, who has run large contact centers, who's been on the other side of the table. I think that's what we bring. We just bring help. Sometimes it's good just to know there's somebody out there who knows what you need. And a contact center person doesn't have time to get all the certifications on all the technology that's out there. That's our job.
Right. You mentioned there 30 years of experience in the contact center. Tell me, I want to scale this back even a little bit further than what we did there. Tell me a little bit about, how did you get here? How did you get 30 years of contact center? How does someone stay in contact center that long? What kept you going? And
That
maybe
is
start
so
from the
funny
beginning.
because most people hear that story and they're like, "Dude, you're nuts." Because I was back in my hometown, Philly, right out of college. I started working for a medical practice. I actually worked for the third largest private medical practice in the city of Philadelphia. It was the St. Joe's Network, and I was the general manager for that network and loving it. But I was a young kid. I was like 22, 22, 23, and I'm in the hospital by 4 o'clock in the morning, out by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. What am I doing with my life at that age, right? So I got bored. As crazy as it sounds, I got bored. And my sister worked in a contact center, and she's like, they always want help. Like nobody stays here in the contact center. So I went and I started working at this contact center, and I was working like 3 to 11. I was working like this really, and it was for Merck. I was taking pharmaceutical calls, and I absolutely loved it. As crazy as it sounds, I loved it. So I after doing that for like 3 months, I quit my job as the general manager of the third largest practice in Philadelphia, and I became a contact center agent. And thankfully I wasn't married, didn't have any kids or anything like that, so there was nobody to be like, no, the hell you're not. So I so I did it, and I went from agent to team lead to supervisor to manager to vice president. I was vice president for Sprint's contact centers, and then I went on from there. I did contact centers for another 15 years, and then I switched into consulting because I figured I wanted to help more people than the customers. But it afforded me, man, it opened up the world because we went through that phase where everyone was outsourcing overseas. And so I went over there to do contact centers and stuff. And then South America became the place to do contact centers. So I was over there for a bit. Now, of course, everything is back in the US. And so I've been traveling around. So, yeah. So when I started consulting on my own, I got an agency. People told me about this thing called the channel. I had no idea what it was. But I met the people over at another master agent, and I worked there for a while. And then I left, and I ran a couple of contact center companies like Serenova, Life Size, Corvisa, did those things. And then I came to Telarus because, shameful plug for Telarus, they're doing it right. And I loved it. And I'll tell you how right they're doing it. I actually went to them and asked them. They didn't even have this job posted. I went to them because of what they were doing and how they were helping customers. And I was like, I want to help customers too. I want to help partners.
Pick me.
And so now I'm here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to touch a little bit more on that, just because to hear you say you did some agent work and you absolutely loved it. We don't really hear that much. That's not that's not an everyday line that comes across. So
Yeah.
tell me, maybe when you first started versus now, the folks that you're advising and the agents that you're watching work, and before you give your advice to the companies, what's some of the changes that you've seen? I know 30 years is quite a long time for technology's sake, but if you could give us a few highlights of some of the major changes that you've seen from that point to now, that'd be great.
I think some of the major changes have been, to your point, working in contact centers. Listen, back when I was doing it and before, it was not considered a fun environment. Now, I did kind of luck up by going into an organization that was an outsourced contact center. So they were, I think, and more than most, focused on the actual agent experience and the customer experience early on. We had someone who was responsible for the customer experience. We had someone that was conscious of how many screens we had to use, what technology we had to go into. But I will tell you that was unique. Most contact centers are, agents are using 9 to 10 different systems. They're working in dark, not well lit environments. And they're tethered to these computers, and they're told when to go to the bathroom and when to take smoke breaks. And that was the old regime, and unfortunately still exists to some degree today. But what's changed has been the focus on the agent experience. I think contact centers and customer experience were always focused on the customer. And it took, in my opinion, too long for them to realize if you have a happy agent, they'll get you a happy customer. So I'm very happy to see that trend has changed. And now there's gamification tools for agents. There's collaboration tools for agents. I mean, when I came up, your name was up on the board if you didn't do well. Now they show the stack rank of everyone. You can get points for getting good quality scores. You can get bonuses, right, for good attendance, for good quality, and things like that. So the technology has really helped the agents' morale, which of course impacts the biggest problem in contact centers, which is attrition. No one really wants to do that long term. That's why everyone said I was crazy. No one goes into it like, I'm going to be a contact center agent for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? No one says that, right? So it's good to have now this understanding that the agent needs to be taken care of. And if we provide a nice environment, now contact centers are, there are less workstations and more open forum. There's more light in them. I go to contact centers now where they have like pool tables and games from the play. I went to a contact center last year. They had a slide that went from like one floor to the other floor. So now I think that's probably the biggest change that I've seen that I really appreciate, and I know the employees appreciate it.
Man, a slide from one floor to the other. I think I might be throwing my hat in the ring for a call center agent here pretty soon. That sounds pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
I want to touch a little bit more on that, as far as, so the 30 years that you spent in the industry, and you saw what you saw. So the agent side, obviously, we kind of touched on that and where that's changed. What about the leadership side? Because I think there's a lot of unspoken, maybe underrated, undervalued, presence in leadership. Obviously, in any company, organization, right? Leadership is key. But I
yeah.
think specifically speaking to contact center, what are some of the trends that you saw maybe change, or some of the mindsets that you saw in leadership, that maybe weren't present, obviously 30 years ago, but maybe not even 3 years ago? What is that?
Yeah.
What are the scaling there?
You know what? You know what's good in leadership now that we didn't really have when I was when I first started out. It started coming about as I was on my latter years as the leader before I went into consulting. Is the collaboration, the networking. When I started, contact centers are notorious for promoting from within, and that has its pros and cons. To be honest with you, the contact centers were always. I became a team lead because I became good at the technology and answering questions, right? So they wanted me to help other agents. And as a team lead, then I became a supervisor because I could help more agents, and I could have my own team because I was knowledgeable about the product and how to use the systems. Then you become a manager. So you get promoted based on your experience with where you are and what you know. The challenge to that is those skills aren't always transferable because a lot of contact centers use proprietary CRMs. The phone system is the phone system, but they talk about topics that are unique to them. What I found in the latter years, and it's still going on now, is more agencies committed to the contact center space. So contact center leaders are able to get out. I will tell you, when I was coming up, if I went to a conference or something like that, it was an internal conference that Sprint had, where I met more people at Sprint. I didn't spend a lot of time outside of that. Now you can go to contact center week, you go to call center week, you can go to channel partners, you can go to events, meet your peers, and talk to them about how they're doing things. And I think that's probably the greatest thing, because now I think we're finding more well-rounded talent in the contact center space. We're finding more transferable skills. We're finding managers learning from other managers, and like businesses, it's not really, it's not a heavy competitive situation. And I think that makes the leaders better.
Yeah, and you make a great point there, right? The peers being able to meet with one another and kind of see sort of the plan in action, as opposed to just being told about it, right? It's much different from that aspect when you hear from someone that you work side by side with, or you work in the same industry. I think that speaks volumes. One of the things that I wanted to discuss, and we've kind of made it a running topic on each one of these episodes that we've had, is COVID, and not from the aspect of just because it's around we want to talk about it. I think there's a method to the madness of what COVID brought, right? As far as our industry and what we do, it made a lot of things fast tracked, right? It sped up the process. A lot of these decision makers, a lot of these companies, organizations, etc. Tell me a little bit about what COVID did to Telarus, and where you guys kind of handled it, and what you saw as a company, and maybe affect you guys directly or maybe indirectly. Give me a little bit of insight into sort of how you guys approached it.
Man, I will tell you that I'm going to try to do this without. It's a little bit sensitive subject for me. I've actually had this conversation with a couple of people, and I'm going to tell you. I can't tell you the details of the conversation, but I'll tell you the result of the conversation. Early on, when COVID was really hitting, and we started seeing it was going to be financial impact, we started seeing things closing and stuff like that. Adam Edwards, our one of our co-founder and CEO, held an internal meeting with us, and it was an internal meeting, so I can't share the details, but I'll tell you basically what he said was, we as a company are positioned to handle our employees and be responsible, and to weather what we believe is going to happen in COVID, and none of you are going to be affected. So I want you to go about, don't make your focus internally. What does COVID mean for me and my family? We're going to be fine. We're going to be taken care of. Let's focus on our partners and still try to be available to help them, even in remote situations, with whatever that means. And that, I think, took a lot of pressure off of us. and allowed us to go out and help our partners and help our partners' customers do well. We of course, we closed the office. We made it voluntary for people to, if they travel or not travel, voluntary to come in the office, not come in the office. So we removed that pressure. Some people chose to stay home. Some people chose to travel with masks. It didn't really matter. We were and still are extremely accommodating of people's personal situations. We did have, of course, like everyone else, we did have people get COVID. And we dealt with it. We helped them. We supported for them. We covered them. During the couple of weeks it takes where you can't taste nothing, don't feel like being around. We did all of that. And I think that from a personal perspective, it helped me and my family and our company, I think, a lot. What we saw with customers that was interesting, unfortunately, was so many of them had disaster recovery and business continuity as a page in a book somewhere, never really practiced it, weren't ready to implement it. And even the ones that had pretty good plans didn't have plans for a global pandemic. They had plans for a local outage, a building fire, something like that. That's what people's most disaster recovery plans were. It was, can I go from this data center to that data center? It really wasn't the whole world shuts down. I have no way of getting to my office. So many people's disaster recovery plans were, well, if this happens, I'll go over here and do this. No one really accounted for, well, if I can't go over there, or if that place is closed, because they're actually having, a disaster recovery as well. So that was kind of what we had to lead customers through. But from a Telarus perspective, and I say this with no prompting, I think as companies go, Telarus handled the COVID experience for its people exceptionally well.
Yeah, and touch on that a little bit more. I know that we had different partners in the space. Our customers came to us, and obviously, in a time of such as the pandemic, obviously budgets were compromised, and those kind of went out the window just because of the fact that no one knew how long this was going to stick around for. So it's almost impossible to be able to understand how far the penny can go, right? Exactly. So you had customers and even partners sometimes came to us and kind of had that well, we don't know how much we can allot over to our customers, to your customers. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but from that aspect, was that one of the hot buttons that you were hearing as far as what you guys were seeing? It was cost a matter in this, or was it more along the lines of, hey, we'll worry about that secondary right now, we just got to be able to do business to begin with?
Yeah, I think there were honestly there were a lot of customers that were caught in situations where they had to tighten their budgets. They weren't sure what was going to happen. There are a lot of customers that served businesses that weren't in business. They couldn't do business. They were on hiatus or on hold or whatever. And so it's a trickle down thing, right? If the contact center supports something that was in hospitality or retail or consumer goods or something like that, they probably weren't doing well. So they cut back their staff. So many agents got laid off in the worst possible time to get laid off, right? I mean, right. Because you're in a pandemic already. I know of families where employees, because I still know people in the contact center space, and so everyone's laid off. They're suffering. There were companies that, look, right, wrong, or indifferent, they had to cut corners, and they didn't pay their bill, right? They didn't pay the vendor. They didn't pay for the services, even though they used them. And the way this business works, you know this. If the vendor doesn't get paid, then there's a whole lot of people standing behind the vendor who don't get paid. There's partners, there's agencies that, and Telarus is a part of that. The Inflow is a part of that, right? And so that was a thing. And that's one of the things that that Adam did a good job of letting us know that, yeah, those things were going to happen. I know you see them, you hear about them. But we are positioned in such a way that we're going to be able to withstand that storm. We're not going to be impacted. I'm very proud of the fact that Telarus, during this very difficult time, did not lay off employees. We didn't shrink in staff. No one's income was negatively impacted. We weathered it very, very well, simply because of honestly, the minds that run our organization had the forethought to be in a good position. but there are a lot of companies that suffer tremendously, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you made a great point there, right? It kind of all comes down and dwindles down to leadership. And especially in times like this, right? You always want to have an understanding of what the plan is and making sure that transparency is there, right? I think that's one of the words that kind of gets thrown around as a buzzword in our industry, right? Transparency and what it really means. But I think, in times like this, the only way to go about it should be to be transparent, right? To let your
Yeah.
employees know where they stand, and what it is that you can and can't do. Not only for the fact to, like you said, to calm their nerves, but to calm the people that they're talking to, those nerves as well, right?
Exactly.
You know,
That's it. That's
yeah,
it. You want them to be able to focus on the people they're supposed to be helping, and they can't do that. Listen, we're all human beings, right? And when you go through something as a human being, when the world goes through something, when your country goes through something, whatever it is, people immediately start thinking. Even if your company goes through something, people think, okay, how does this impact me first? Right? It's a natural thing. It's a normal thing to think of. And if you have customers that don't know where they stand in your organization, if they don't know how the organization is going to handle certain things, they may unfortunately spend some time trying to figure their own situation out. And that takes time and energy from your consumer, from your end user, like you said, from your customer's customer. That relationship is going to be impacted, especially when you're talking to contact center. Contact center agents, for a lot of these businesses, that's the only interaction a customer is going to have with the company. And they're going to base their entire opinion about the company based on what this agent is telling them and what the agent's experience is. So you want to make sure that agent, like you said, has transparency. And transparency doesn't mean that everything you tell them is going to be good or
right.
great or work in their favor. Transparency simply means that you're straightforward and honest with them and let them know exactly, and then let them decide from there.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point. I think a lot of that stuff gets kind of lost in times of that we've had and seen sort of with COVID. So it's really key to hear, partners such as yourselves share that same sort of thought process. And Inflow's kind of adopted that same sort of I guess if you want to call it an ideology or a thought. But I think we're better for it. I want to touch a little bit more there, with Telarus and sort of how you guys deal with partners. Tell me a little bit about sort of the makeup of Telarus and what the partners do for you guys, and sort of how you interact with the industry through them, and kind of how it is that the ecosystem works for you guys.
Yeah, cool. So the ecosystem for us is there's a end user. Let's call them a bank. Okay, so there's a business that's a bank. The bank has banking customers. We call them consumers, and then the bank itself would be a client. And let's say the bank wants to understand what technology could be available for them to resolve a certain issue. They go to Inflow. Inflow has technical people, consulting people, operational people, and Inflow says, hey, we'll take a look at what you're doing and figure out what the best technology is for you going forward. Inflow then works with us, Telarus, as a partner to gain access to over 300 technologies worldwide. And Inflow says, okay, based on what I know about ABC Bank, I need to take a look at this contact center person, this cloud person, this whatever it is. We make them available to Inflow. So we do the contracts, the legal work behind the scenes to bring all these different technologies. Inflow says this one works, that one doesn't work, this one works, that one doesn't work. I'm going to take these and show them to my customer. The customer may pick one or two of them to move forward with technology. Inflow will help them with the interaction, with the implementation, and the customer will do the contract with the actual technology company, with the actual customer. But then Inflow also, you guys are unique to us as in our ecosystem, because you not only are on the pre-sales and sales side of technology, you also do managed services, you do support, you do implementations of technology. So you're a little bit of an outlier, honestly, with most of the partners that we deal with, because you guys provide a holistic system to your customers, and you provide white glove service. You walk them through it, so it's a little bit different. The majority of the partners in our ecosystem are doing a lot of the pre-sale stuff, but then the support is handled by the vendor or by a third party or by the companies themselves. But that's our role. Telarus is a technology distributor, so it's my job because you have customers to support. You have clients to support. So my job is when you say, "Hey, Brandon, these guys look at a contact center," I'm the guy that needs to know that before March of last year, there were 48 cloud contact center companies in the world. Because of COVID, by the end of last year, there was 171 of them because companies came out of the woodwork and said, "Oh, we do cloud, we do cloud business. Your agents have to work at home. We do it." It's my job to figure out how many of those additional 130 are real and how many of them are private equity firms, how many of them are whatever, and screen them down for you. I will tell you, as of March of this year, that number is now 211 different companies that say they're cloud communication companies because, necessity demand breeds creativity, whatever you want to call it. So all these companies are out there. So that's the part that we do. We actually vet every single one of them. And in some cases, we vet them just to disqualify them. Just so if you come to me and say, "Hey, Brandon, my customer heard something about, XYZ company that does cloud, whatever." I need to be able to advise you on that, and I can't do that unless I do the due diligence. So that's a big part of what we do, in addition to the contracting part of what we do.
That's a fantastic breakdown. Fantastic. And those numbers are actually pretty daunting. I'm not one, it's above my pay grade to be able to fully understand what those numbers mean and where they're going to go. But
Yeah.
right off the bat, they're daunting. I got a loaded question for you, and take this where you want and pick it apart how you want. But
Right.
as far as your position and where you're at today, what makes a good partner?
Oh, wow.
I know it's a doozy.
Yeah, that's a good one. I will tell you what makes a good partner to me.
That's fair.
What makes a good partner to me is one that, and I'm gonna say this, it's gonna sound corny, but I have to say it because there's some that don't get it. What makes a good partner to me is a partner who is really partnered with their customer, puts themselves in their customer's position on their side of the table, and will do whatever is right for their customer, regardless of the financial gain or loss or situation. That's what makes a good partner to me. I tell partners all the time, I know this is a business, and I know people are in business to make money. I'm not an idiot. But if making money can be secondary or third, you can make a lot more money, oddly as it sounds. You know what I'm saying? If you can put your customer first and really make sound decisions for them, the money will come. You don't have to chase it. You'll have a good reputation. You'll be good in business. You'll have customers that stick with you. The money will come. So for me, a good partner is one that can really put everything else aside and say what is right for this. The second thing to me that makes a good customer is one that understands the relationship doesn't stop when the contract is signed. You want to be sure, you should be sure as a partner, you should be sure whatever you sold your customer got implemented correctly, that the utilization is there and they're using it because they're happy with it, and it's actually bringing them the benefit that you told them during the sales cycle they would get. And if it's not, let's look at it and let's figure out how to help them increase that. One of the jokes, and if you're at Salesforce, don't be mad at me. It's just a statistic. It's just a statistic, but it's one that I use to help customers understand. If I ask anyone what is the number one CRM on the planet, they would all say Salesforce, and it is. And Salesforce is big, badass. I love them. I love them. But Salesforce's utilization is very, very low. It's the most widely sold, but so many people get it and don't use it to its full potential or don't know how to use it. I'm not going to tell you what the number is, but I will tell you the utilization of Salesforce is very, very low. So customers have it, don't use it. As a partner, that would bother me. I would want my customer. I would want to figure out why my customer is not utilizing the tools that we agreed was going to make them better. So, good partner for me. Align with your customer, be on their side, do the right thing for them no matter what, and service them beyond the sale. And you and me gonna get along well for a long time.
I think, Brandon, I think you just had $1 million trademark right there. If money comes second or third, you'll make a lot more of it. I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
It's true.
It's almost so simple that it sounds like it's too good to be true, right? One of those things that
Yeah,
come across, but it is really that simple sometimes. It really is.
yeah, it really is.
I want to, kind of, maybe lighten the conversation up a little bit and talk more about sort of you and what you do. Someone as yourself that, has been in the industry so long and has all this knowledge and expertise. How do you keep going? What motivates you? What are the things that keep you driven? What are some things that, get you out of bed in the morning and keep you moving forward?
Oh man, that's a corny answer too, unfortunately. um, I, I am driven by aha moments. Because it's very easy for me, even though I've been out of contact center leadership for about the last 8 or 10 years. I remember when I was running a contact center, and contact centers run like this, man. They're like hurricanes, and you go in the morning and you just spin around for 9 hours, and it spits you out. And as a leader, you spend every day right about here, just trying to keep everything sane, trying to keep your employees happy, keep everything above board. And so, to your point, when you said like you don't know what you don't know, I love both. I love two things about well, a lot of things about what I'm doing, but two things specific to your question is one is when I can legitimately help a customer, not sell them something, when I can actually help them, when I whiteboard what they're currently doing, and they have all these workarounds and things they had to do to make life work, and I can look at it and say, hey, you know what? These four pieces right here can actually be done in one. We can cut down these three systems that your agents are going to, which will cut down their time, make them more efficient. When I can actually help them, that's exciting for me. And then from a partner perspective, because I'm also tasked with teaching our partners about customer experience so they can talk to customers about the customer experience, teaching them about technology. When I'm dealing with a partner who is learning this space or learning the customer experience, and I can give them a nugget or two and I see them go, wow, like I didn't know that. That is so exciting for me, man. That's like adrenaline. Like so when I do these classes, we have these academies that we go around and we teach partners how to excel in this space. And when a partner gets it, when you can see you take a complex thing like how to go through a digital transformation, and you can break it down, and a partner gets it. Dude, that is so exciting for me. When a customer comes back and says, "Man, you know what? We put in this new technology. Our employee satisfaction score has gone up. Our net promoter score has gone up. Our CSAT is through the roof." I'm stoked, man. I'm like, and don't get me wrong, I still want to get paid. I got to make sure the people from Telarus who look at this thing, they understand. I got bills, so I need that part. But I do this for the pure adrenaline of people gaining knowledge and getting better. It drives me tremendously.
Yeah, it's very validating, right?
Yeah.
What about when Brandon goes home and he turns that contact center brain off? What do you do in your free time? What are some hobbies? What are some things that make you that keep you going that when it's not contact center based?
Bro, I'm gonna scare some people to death right now. All
Let's
right.
let's hear it.
When Brandon goes home, Brandon has four teenage daughters in his house.
Oh wow.
Okay. So what Brandon wants to do doesn't matter. Okay. All right. Brandon is home, and especially after traveling, they all have different needs. They're all different. I love my kids, but that's really home. I have six kids total. I have two grown sons that are out. They're still back in Florida. But I would say for me, it's the non how do I say this? The non-spotlight time, right? I spend a lot of time traveling, a lot of time
Mhm.
training, a lot of time speaking, webinars, workshops, stuff like that. So when I come home, I enjoy like last night. My wife got off work early, unexpected, and so we did an impromptu date night. Take her out to dinner, enjoy some just me and her talking, eating, having a few drinks. That part's fun. I will say I probably have an extreme advantage living in Vegas because I can go to a show, I can go to comedy, I can go to dinner, I can go anywhere I want at a moment's notice, and so I enjoy that part. I enjoy getting out with the kids. We like road trips, biking, hiking. My girls are big YouTube video TikTokers,
Yeah.
so they're big into that. But yeah, I enjoy family time. I enjoy
Yeah.
sitting back. We have a little theater in the lower level. I enjoy. I mean, we do popcorn, pizza, snacks, and we sit in the theater and watch movies as a family together. I love that stuff, man.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Anytime I can turn my brain off and just kind of let it coast is valuable time for me. I do enjoy that. I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to ask you one more question before I let you jump off. And it has a lot to do with sort of, I guess mentorship is a buzzword, and it's a word that's
hmm
thrown around a lot, and means different things to different people. So I guess my question to you is, as far as mentorship goes, I'm sure that you've had mentors in your career, and probably most likely
Absolutely.
have been a mentor as well.
hmm
Give me a little bit of insight into your thought process when maybe you're coaching someone up, or not even coaching, but maybe advising, whatever that word that you want to use there is. How do you go about that, and what are some tips, tricks maybe that you have for other leaders out in the industry?
Yeah. First of all, I would tell you, as a mentor, I think it's a very humbling thing. I take it, whether I'm actively mentoring someone, which I'm currently doing for 7 different people in the industry right now, or whether I'm impromptu mentoring someone who just calls me and says, "Hey, I need your advice on this," which I actually did yesterday. It's a very humbling experience. It means a lot to me that people would consider my experience as a way for them to learn, to avoid some pitfalls and to have some successes. I don't take it lightly. It's very important to me, mainly because I had mentors. I don't want to get too sensitive a subject on people, but I'm a minority from North Philadelphia. You know, Being an executive in a company was not necessarily a dream or a plan. When I was coming up. When I was coming up, the way for everybody to get out of the hood was you had to rap or you had to be a sports star, right? That was it. That was it. You know what I mean? You could be in entertainment or be an athlete. Thank God my mother instilled in us that education, academia was the actual way out. So she made sure, single mom put 6 kids through college. That was her thing. And now we're all out in the professional world. So I would say that experience, though, I had people help me along the way. Even the doctor's office that I was in, there was a woman who was actually Mensa, who was a tremendous help to me. As a young person trying to learn, and some of the things she's told me, I still do till today. And I'd like to give a quick shameless plug because I did mention, the struggles and the mentorship. There's an organization out there that I'm a proud co-founder of in the channel called Exposure. And Exposure is an inclusion and diversity program, but a big part of Exposure, besides the webinars, is mentorship. The goal is it's not just for people of color; it's for anyone who feels like they need help figuring out the channel or progressing in the channel. The channel is a very successful engine, but it's unknown, really. Like, you can't go to college and get a channel degree. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna get a degree and go be in the channel now. So I love the fact that Exposure has taken an approach that we want to help people understand it, help them do better. I've had some great mentors, and I've been blessed in the sense of being able to mentor some people. I think it's necessary. I think it's important. I will tell any um, leader that's out there. This is not the I don't say like the big brother, big sister plug, but even if you can help one, even one within your organization, you don't have to go far to look for something. There's always someone in your organization that's starting out, that's learning. I would say, even if you just do lunch with them, do lunch once a week. Take 15 minutes or something like that. I will tell you, as a person who received that mentorship, it's invaluable. There's no doubt in my mind I would not be where I am today if I did not have people who poured into me when I needed to grow and when I needed to learn.
Absolutely, and I could touch on some of the other side of that, being in that spot today, right? I'm a little
Mhm.
bit earlier in my career,
Mhm.
and the mentors that I've had up until this point have been invaluable. The mentors I have today are invaluable.
Mhm.
I'll tell you right now, and I know I share the same sort of feelings here as some people out there do as well, and that is, our industry is one that it's not always about what you know. right? I mean, it's important to know what you know, but a lot of that is applying that information and being able to relay that information over to others. And I feel like a lot of that is kept to guard, close to the chest, whether it's for job security reasons, whether, there's a plethora of reasons why people do stuff like that. But I think it's invaluable to be able, like you said, go out to lunch, once a month with, some of your growing employees, or even some of your struggling employees, or maybe some that you look at that may have been disengaged, whatever the feeling there is. But I do think that it's something that as our industry evolves, and, we are getting, I want to say a little bit of a dynamic shift, and things are becoming more social media based, and people are putting out content that is much different than we saw even 5 years ago, let alone 30, right? So I love to see the industry change. I think it's something that it's needed, because the people that we're mentoring today are going to be the leaders of tomorrow, and that sounds corny.
We need them.
And it sounds corny and cheesy, but it's a fact. It's reality. Yeah. So we need people like that. We need people, such as yourself, and hopefully if I'm maybe even 20% of where you are at today, where I'm you.
No, man,
I got 2 thumbs up.
You got it. Well, you already got the right sports team. You already got the right mentality, man. And that's the thing. I think everyone helping everyone. It's one of the things I like about the channel, and it's weird because it's kind of a competitive workspace, but there are people that transcend that. There are people, and I will tell you, even as an agent, when I was an early agent, I went to a workshop, and this partner was speaking on stage, and he was talking about LOAs, and he was talking about how he does certain things and what makes him successful. And I took a chance. I'd only been a partner. I'd only been an agent for like 6 months. I sent him an email saying, "Hey, you mentioned this. I want to try to mimic that. Like, can you tell me what should the components of that be?" And this partner sent me, not the components of it, sent me 7 actual documents that he created, used, and he was like, "Here, just change the name on these, and you'll be fine." I mean, right. That's really unheard of.
Yeah.
To have that, but we have that in the channel. We have peer-to-peer support in the channel. We have accountability in the channel, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it, man.
No, I love to hear it. And Brendan, I've had an amazing last 50 minutes or so. I'll tell you right now, Vegas is on my mind very, very frequently, and don't be surprised that if in a year or so you get an email or a phone call from me asking for a dinner reservation so we can get back together.
Man. I got you. That's the best part of me being here. I tell everyone when you visit. We know the strip. We can do the strip. We've done conventions, conferences. I can help you with that. But more importantly, I can show you how Nevadans do Vegas.
All right, I'm going to hold you to that. Awesome, Brendan. I want to thank you again for the time today, my friend. I look forward to doing this again. And for those that are still listening out there, make sure to subscribe to the Inflow Experience podcast. You can find us on all your major platforms: iHeartRadio, Apple, iTunes, and Spotify as well. That's our time for today. Brandon, again, thank you so much, my man. I appreciate you, and I hope things continue to go in the direction that they have gone for you thus far. You're an exceptional human being, my man, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, man. It's been great talking to you. Keep on keeping on, man.
Go Birds. Go Birds.
All right. Go Birds.
All right. Cheers.